I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're watching live the newest Ethereum upgrade called Pectra, the biggest code change after the merge. We are joined by Slava and Eugene from LiFi, Paif from Lido Finance, Misla from Biconomy, Kaimi from Volts FYI, Tom Teman and Marisa Posner from the Ethereum Foundation, Ivo from Ambire, and Martin Derka from Zirkits. Thank you for being with us, everyone. We have a lot of people today on the stream. In less than an hour, actually in less than 30 minutes, um, 11 EAPs are set to go live alongside Pectra, and we are all gathered here particularly because one of them, EAP 7702, who will try to improvise and summarize the Pectra upgrade and then EAP 7702 for a wider audience. Is there a candidate among us?
So I can take the summary of 7702. How about that? And I will leave Pectra as generosity for other people. So EIP 7702 is part of the Pectra package or Pectra upgrade that is coming onto Ethereum today, or will activate on Ethereum today in less than those 30 minutes. And in technical terms, what it does, it introduces new type of a transaction. It's called a set code transaction. And what this set code transaction allows is essentially turn your externally owned account, which you imagine as your wallet, into a smart contract. So it allows you to delegate the functionality to a smart contract that is already deployed on the network. And then your wallet can start receiving transactions and executing them in the way that that smart contract normally would. So it allows us to essentially code in account abstraction into your externally owned account using just Ethereum means without any additional smart contracts or other stuff that is required, for example, for the 4337. And generally, it allows a lot of user experience improvements, starting from batching transactions over gas sponsorships and a whole bunch of things that we essentially need for people to be able to use blockchains the way how they use Web2 applications. So that's why it's really exciting.
All right. What else can we expect from Pectra? Can anyone chime in? Like on the bigger picture?
So Pectra is also increasing the number of blobs for L2. I know that because I actually built an L2, right? So we are posting data onto L1. That means that the capacity of blobs for rollups will be higher. Operations will become a little bit cheaper, and we will have better opportunity for scaling. Simultaneously with that, what is also coming is some deterrence for rollups and layer 2s to post data onto Ethereum L1 in the form of call data. So call data on L1 is getting repriced. It's going to become a little bit more expensive so that our state is not bloating for no reasons. We have better mechanisms for that right now. Those are the blobs, right? And a few more other things. There is a precompile, I believe, that is coming up. What else?
Yeah, there's the zkPLS precompile, and then I think there's also a EIP about validator staking that will include the range of like 32 to 2048 ETH. But yeah, there's a bunch of things. Of course, Tom and I are on the EF AA team, so the thing that we've been most focused on is 7702, of course, with 4337. So we're super excited for that.
How about a few words from Lido on the other changes in Pectra?
You mean with regards of the increase of the amount of staked ETH, right? That will change. Yeah. So currently the maximum was 32 ETH. Now it will be I'm not sure the exact number, but more than 2,000, right? So it will definitely increase the if you the efficiency. If you have like various nodes with 32 ETH, now you can have smaller amount of machines, right? With much more ETH being staked by each of those nodes. So I think it will it will be quite good from that side.
Yes, it's also great for small stakers, right? Like for parties that would like to compete with big institutional validators and protocols like Lido. Because like if you just had 32 ETH previously, you would have to basically wait until you get additional 32 ETH to be able to, stake another validator. And right now you'll be able to auto compound. So if you're like a small staker, small validator, that is very useful and just like incentivize more small validators.
All right. As I said in the intro, the star of this upgrade is obviously EIP7702, and most of the noise, at least from what I see, is around 7702. So I'm curious about each one of you, what makes you most excited about EIP7702?
Okay, maybe I'll take this one. So coming from the account abstraction perspective, I feel like what 7702 allows is to finally have all the people with EOAs also enjoy the benefits of account abstraction and see the value of what it can provide. So EOAs are very sticky, right? Like sometimes you can't really migrate away from them because your EOA is set on some contract and it's not necessarily just assets you can move. Sometimes it's just like reputation and stuff like that. So now being able to offer the average person that already has an EOA stuff like transaction batching and gas abstraction and all the great things, and using stuff like passkeys in addition to their EOA, that's something that's going to allow us to have. It's kind of dApps in the ecosystem are gonna start integrating a lot more features because a lot of their users have EOA. So now they can offer that to them pretty seamlessly without asking them to migrate their account or anything like that. So I'm really excited about seeing like what's gonna happen when we bring the benefits of account abstraction to all the existing users, not the next 1 billion users that we're always aiming to and are, in my eyes, in a sense more important. No offense, I'm an EOA holder. Everybody here has EOAs, but we're the early users, right? This whole thing doesn't really mean anything if we don't get to that next 1 billion users with the people who don't know what Ethereum is, what account abstraction is. But still, being able to see the effects on the existing user base, I'm really excited to see like what type of UX we're gonna see start happening in the ecosystem.
I can continue. I'm also super excited about the UX elements of 7702. I am a very big DeFi enthusiast, and as a DeFi enthusiast, there's always this like set of protocols that sort of I like to use, right? But I am also a very lazy person. So, going to one website and taking an action, maybe consisting of several steps, and going somewhere else to take another action, and going somewhere else to take another action, and altogether this taking half an hour. This is honestly not the experience that I, really appreciate. What I'm really looking forward to are the UX improvements where such actions will be actually really easily achievable with a click of a single button. If it means that the wallet then should take some tokens from my account, swap it to some proportions, deposit into certain DeFi protocols, take the outcome, and maybe stake it somewhere, it can all happen automatically with a single click, and this is actually really cool.
Yeah, I completely agree because we, thanks to Ambire Wallet, we had a chance to test this transaction batching yesterday on Gnosis chain. It was really nice when we can just in one click have approval and execution transaction just in one go without all these additional steps. I see we have a Mislav here from Bioeconomy. We're also building on Bioeconomy stack for Jumper to have this one-click experience for our users. So thanks to all these improvements with 7702, it will be really great UX for the users.
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning. I can go next. yeah, for us, I think even a lot of people are focusing on UX, which is like a very big part of 7702. But I think 7702 is a much bigger thing, to be honest, than purely the user experience. It's radically changing the execution model of Ethereum, which is, I think, well deserved change at this point, where, you know, I always think of it how Ethereum model is: you sign one transaction, you post that transaction, and it gets executed on chain. That's very rudimentary in its essence. Now with 7702 and the stack that we've built on top of 7702 and all of this is going to be the ability to set scheduled transactions, the ability to execute multiple transactions across multiple chains with a single user signature, the ability to, you know, to do like a laddered approach towards slippages. For example, you want to start with a bigger slippage, start with a smaller slippage, then you want to increase it theoretically under some off-chain conditions. So basically, I think the narrative that can be used for 7702 is that the Ethereum, it's not execution, but like transaction commitment layer is becoming completely programmable. And that has, I think, much bigger implications for the future of Ethereum development than people realize when just focusing on the UX side of things. So I think for wallets and providers in that space, it's an extremely big UX unlock. But for us and integrators who are using things such as what we do and such as some like also competitors do, it's a much bigger unlock in the sense of just how you interact with blockchains. And like one wager I have is that the amount of smart contracts that people need to write will drop like quite substantially after 7702 is fully integrated and the tooling around it is fully live, because a lot of things you used to need to write contracts for can now be programmatically expressed at the application layer, and I think that's really exciting. So yeah, that's my take.
So something else I think it's important to add on about 7702 is the security aspect. And we've seen a lot of chat about the security risks of delegating control to a wallet, to a contract. But I personally think that by this point, the industry is very capable of producing secure contracts to delegate to, and 4337 has been a really good example of that. Like you can see the entry point contract, and you can see the entire security approach of the Ethereum Foundation on that, and how smoothly it has gone so far. And I personally think that most of the contracts we delegate to will be much simpler than the entry point, so I see no concerns there personally. Another thing that's important to note is that many people thought that dApps will actually propose contracts to delegate to, which I think no wallet will ever do. So far, no wallet has done. And for me, there are only benefits because ERC20 approvals, infinite approvals, are essentially dead. Thanks to 7702, which is excellent. So now we're moving forward to completely eliminating approvals, and I think tons of dApps already started using 5792 to make sure that they batch an exact approval, like Lido already did. I think Uniswap already did, which is a very good example. Because they're practically leading the space as one of the most used dApps. And yesterday I saw Aave testing on Ambire, which is pretty cool, testing the same thing. So Aave is going to do it as well. And that's a huge step because approval UX on Aave has been not so great so far. So yeah, anyone want to add anything on the security aspect?
Yeah, just another like considerations for wallet devs. I think one of the things that we're thinking about and kind of recommending to wallets is that wallets like need to be aware that they shouldn't like silently overwrite another delegation without like the user's consent, because if the same private key is used in multiple wallets, each one could try to assign its own delegate contract. So like one wallet could add passkey support while another one like wants to batch calls. So this could like break the original functionality. So we're putting together like a list of considerations for wallet devs, like security considerations, how to use 7702 with 4337, which should be out later today on our 4337 Twitter. Take a look, keep an eye out for that.
Something more I'll add in terms of security. This is something we already saw with 4337, and we now get this as well with 7702 around batching. Is that known issue that happens with using DEXs is that you have those dangling approvals where you approve, a certain amount to trade that token, but you don't remove that approval. And there's a platform called a Brazilian exchange called Get Picnic, which they've been using 4337 for quite a while, and they made sure to always batch transactions for UX that you open the approval, you do the trade, and then you remove the approval, and it's all in one transaction. And there was an attack, I don't remember which one, that happened to a lot of people, but everybody who used that platform were just protected from that because by default, they removed those approvals. So I feel like you're going to get like security through UX in a way. It's something you could have done today, but nobody wants to ask the user to sign another thing when they're already signing like 2-3 things just to make a trade. So that's pretty cool, I think, as well.
It's also worth pointing out that in many cases you don't even need to remove the approval. Like if it's an exact approval, it will get removed by itself because that's how approvals work. Obviously, they self-deduct when you spend them. So if you make an exact approval, then it's automatically zeroed. So this is what we're doing at Ambire for the last 3 years. In the built-in swap, you always use exact approvals. Like one exception of when you cannot use exact approvals is if you do an exact output swap and not an exact input swap. Because with the exact output swap, you don't know what amount from the input will be consumed. So if you make like an approval for 10 and then you end up spending 9.7, then you end up with an open approval for 0.3, which is not fatal, but it would be better if it was 0. So yeah, that's one example. But in most cases, just doing the exact approval would be perfectly sufficient.
If I can chime in, I would love to sort of represent like the application developer side here. And especially like Martin's story resonated with me here. Like you've mentioned, Martin, you're like a DeFi enthusiast, and like I've been DeFi enthusiast since the very beginning. So because probably most of the brands here are very recognizable. Like if someone doesn't know, like with Vaults FYI, we're building this one front end to interact with all DeFi without compromising on security. So like if you're using app.vaults.fyi, you're interacting directly with protocol. There is no intermediary smart contract. And we were trying like to solve as many UX problems for DeFi users as possible. One of them being this DeFi fragmentation, which is like you have to go to different interface to interact with different vaults. So like you actually can do it through vaults, like through the one app. The issue always was like there's like a lot of transaction to be done if you want to like build like a more complex portfolio, like invest deposits into multiple protocols at the same time. So we've been supporting like transaction batching for like half a year now. So like from the very beginning, even before this native protocol interface did this, the issue always was that basically smart wallets were such a minority of the usage. Like when we're using like seeing like a TVL, the volume going through our app, like basically 99% of the TVL was being deposited, withdrawn through the EOAs. So right now, like the 7702 is actually a massive upgrade because like it allows all those EOAs to start utilizing all these features that are possible, and then like not only just batching, approve, and deposit, but also things like, hey, like now I have this idea for rebalancing my portfolio, like from this 6 vaults into these 5 other vaults. And we could expose these features right now, like with a basically single signature to users. And this is huge. So like super, super stoked for 7702 here, like as an application developer.
Yeah, I would like to add something here, which is really understated, is that it's not only that it helps account abstraction, that it brings account abstraction features to existing accounts, but it's also that it forces dApps to care about smart accounts, because now dApps are aware of this thing is no longer niche, and they need to care about it. They need to implement batching. They need to care about signatures as well. So it forces the entire industry to care about the possibility of the account being a contract.
Yeah, on the security side, maybe also one thing to add is there's been a lot of talk now on like just the single chain context, but I think Ethereum is not a single chain anymore. Ethereum is now Ethereum and its rollups. You know, it's a whole ecosystem of chains, and there are certain considerations regarding, for example, what Marissa said about like wallet delegations, and which becomes particularly relevant in a multi-chain context, which is the ability, for example, for a wallet to end up in a unsynchronized state where, for example, one wallet on one chain authorized to itself and then another wallet on another chain authorized to itself. And so there are certain caveats there where, you know, theoretically you might not even need the wallet on the original chain to be exploited in any way, you know, or whatever. It's just like there are certain like multi-chain interesting attack vectors, and I do think this is also solved at the wallet level, where basically I'm not sure what like the most proper way of handling this is, but basically it's the sort of idea that that we must ensure, like before any transaction is being processed, that like there is a synchronized state across multiple blockchains, because there are now, and we will be seeing applications which are expecting, you know, to it's an extremely common pattern these days, like an app moves funds from one chain to another, then something happens on that other chain, etc. Would be really cool if like there could be either a pattern built into the wallets or into the application SDKs or whatever, to like make this very explicit expectation that this transaction should fail if the delegations don't match across multiple chains, because then you get into this sort of weird hodgepodge of like, was there, maybe I used to have like a multi-sig thing where I like, not a multi-sig, but like an additional signer that I no longer trust, you know, and then this signer remained delegated as a trusted signer on some destination chain, and then my wallet on the source chain redelegated, but it didn't redelegate on the destination chain, and this put like my account into some sort of weird half position. So I think like from the security perspective, this is something that's also like maybe a bit less pronounced in the discussions around 7702. I think it's if it's obvious that Ethereum is pursuing a multi-chain roadmap going forward, and then in that case, it needs to be like every single consideration needs to be cognizant of the fact that this needs to work in a multi-chain environment.
Yeah, I completely agree with this take, and also I'd like to add to this that it would be nice if wallet UIs also mentioned this delegation somewhere and not silently just delegate to some contract or redelegate to some contract, so users are always aware of what is happening with their delegation right now.
Yeah.
Does someone have an opinion on 7702 and automations and agents as a gateway to, you know, enabling them to wallets?
Well, I think it's a very clear-cut case that 7702 is going to be immensely important for agents and AI automation in general, like AI or not AI. Like that's I guess a smaller point view. Like as long as it's an agent, how it's coded in the background, it's really not that relevant for the execution stack. But yeah, if you imagine like for an EOA wallet, there was really no proper way to do automation beyond like setting up like long-running permits to some contracts, which would then pull from the EOA, you know, but like no like super elegant way to do it. So depending on what wallets want to expose, we'd be happy to support such cases as like tooling developers, and I'm sure our application integrators would love to leverage them. So yeah, now I guess the ball is also in the court of the wallets, like a lot. So I think maybe that's one topic that's that's worthy of discussion is like, what are wallets going to be willing to expose and how much? Like, is it ERC 7715? Is it some other delegations type? How do apps actually consume that? And by apps, I also mean AI agents. Like, how do you get access to the user funds? Because you sure are not going to get an approval to set your own delegation. So if you can't do that, how do you get access to the money?
I can give the wallet point of view here. We're super excited about this because we've all done it, like knowing that there is some sort of an NFT mint or some sort of an airdrop claim that you wanna claim at a specific time, and you have to be really quick about it. And this is something that is really stressful and annoying, especially back in the day when the Ethereum network wasn't so, like when transaction inclusion wasn't so guaranteed. So you had to make sure that you set the right gas, and then you had to speed up the transaction, and it was a horror show. And I think that this is something that could be very easily automated. And from a security perspective, obviously you wanna have very, very limited access. So you wanna give access to the agent, only the necessary access the minimally necessary access that it needs to perform a specific action. So obviously you're not gonna give it a full delegation. So you're not gonna use 7702 to delegate to an agent. You're gonna use 7702 to delegate to another contract, which then uses some different framework, some different way of giving access to an automated agent. And the MetaMask delegator framework is a very good example of this. And generally the delegations and permissions EIPs, I forgot the numbers, it was 77 something. That's a very good starting point. But what I'm personally excited about is that you can enforce a lot of security guarantees on chain. So you can say, okay, this transaction will pass only if I receive this. Otherwise, it should completely revert atomically. So that's something really good from the security perspective that 7702 enables. Automation without really with minimized security risk.
Yeah. Well, I think also in this case, I agree completely. I think the delegator framework and ERC 7710, 7715 are really good approaches because it constrains the security profile of the action being executed. So we've long, like now for months, even before 7702, like really figured out that this is the best model. It makes the users feel secure. So even if you are theoretically, let's call it hacked, the most you can ever lose is the explicit amount that you approved. You can never lose like the entire balance on your wallet, etc. And then you have a very explicit approval to whom you are approving. And I'm sure wallet UIs will adapt to this, like this contract who is requesting, this is a trusted contract, and like knowing what actions will happen in the future.
Exactly. I've heard some FUD about permissions just being like bigger approvals, but it's actually the opposite. Permissions are conditioned approvals. So you can condition approval not only to approve like a specific amount, but to approve a specific amount only if you get something in return or only if something happens. Okay, So we have 30 seconds to go. So Ivan, do you want to say anything about this? Ivan, you're muted.
I just wanted to say that I feel like in those space movies where there's everyone in the control room looking at the huge screen and, waiting for the launch. I'm not sure, being non-technical, how we understand that everything's fine and the merge happened.
The seconds will be 0-0.
All right, it says complete. I don't know if this complete. Can someone check? We should see Etherscan, right? Or well, happy Pectra, everyone.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
Cheers.
So yeah, okay, we got a block.
17 seconds ago.
Yeah, now let's just try doing the transaction with Ambire wallet. Right?
Looks real.
Yep.
Yeah. I will now try a transaction, but I first need to write. Just a second. Oh, wait. let me open my.
I hope this works.
I also hope it works, but I need to see if I'm sharing my screen properly. Let me see full screen layout. Bummer.
On Beacon Scan, it says we are 2 epochs behind the schedule, actually.
2 epochs behind?
Yeah.
Does this mean it's not live yet?
Yeah, maybe 5 more minutes.
All right. This was funny. All right, then I'll have enough time to see if my screen is shared properly, because we're using StreamYard and the extension is, is in a pop-up window, and this seems to only share the window, this one with the countdown, and not the pop-up. But
one thing I wanted to touch on, I guess, while you're getting that up, is kind of what 7702 and 4337 enable together. So with 7702, you get batch transactions without any additional infrastructure. But if you want to support gas abstraction, so basically paying for the transaction for the users or allowing them to pay in a different token, or if you want pass keys or session keys, then you need a relayer or decentralized network like the ERC-4337 mempool to submit transactions on behalf of the OA. And so I know that Ambire uses 7702 with 4337. The reason that using it with 437, besides those benefits, is that you also get support for censorship resistance with a public mempool, so that anyone can see and is also incentivized to include your transactions, which is really important, so that no one can easily hide or ignore transactions that they don't like or don't want to include for whatever reason. So without this public mempool, then transactions could go through centralized or private relayers, which would risk the censorship and also increase points of failure. So one thing that we're really focused on at the EF is ensuring that the flow stays as censorship resistant as possible for users, which the strongest way to do that is by running transactions through the 4337 mempool. So yeah, it's really cool that Ambire has implemented 7702 with 437, and we're hoping that other wallets will also follow suit.
Yeah, thank you, Marisa. That was really important clarification, because a lot of people still don't seem to know that 7702 is not a replacement for 4337, and you still absolutely need 4337 if you want to do gas abstraction. With 7702 alone, you can do a lot of smart stuff, so to speak, but you're still limited to paying the gas with the native currency of the chain, which is a very big limitation, because especially in a chain agnostic world where we need to transact on any chain, even new chains, new layer 2s, we need to be able to have sponsored transactions or pay gas in a cross-chain manner, and not be burdened by having to bridge tokens or by having to dox your account by withdrawing from a centralized exchange, or even a worse scenario where you ask a friend to send you gas money. So all of those cases are still solved by 4337.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the privacy preserving use case is also another one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was trying to see what other wallets I guess are on this call. Oh, Mislav, so I was wondering about Biconomy's plans, if they were planning on joining the 437 mempool anytime soon. Would love to hear about if that's in your roadmap.
So our roadmap changed quite a bit. We are now full-on multi-chain execution environment. So we do place a really big emphasis on censorship resistance. So our transactions are now not going through our centralized bundler anymore. They're going through what we call the Biconomy network, which is a globally distributed network of nodes, which are protected by staking and slashing to actually ensure transaction inclusion. 4337, we are reusing a lot of the concepts from it. We're using user ops, we're using the entry points, we're using a bunch of things. However, on the decentralized mempool side, we will not be participating in that one, because like we would participate when the multi-chain support for 4327 reaches the levels that like our stack requires. Because as I said, like we've done a very big reorganization of the of everything that like Biconomy does and that we use, and it's all oriented around basically unifying Ethereum with its rollups. We want like the whole vision of what we're trying to achieve, and I think this is a very good improvement to the Ethereum stack. Is we really want to make Ethereum and all the EVM rollups feel like a single chain, like for the front end developer, where they don't even know that they are interacting with like, they know that they are interacting with a specific chain, but they don't have to like set up a custom RPC endpoint. They don't have to configure their wallet or chain, and hence like all the wallets will be synchronized around it. So yeah, I do agree with you 100%. Like censorship resistance, forced inclusion, all of these are like extremely important things. We've just gone about a bit of a different way of achieving this, and we're like always happy to like work with either Ethereum Foundation or any other teams in the space to like get closer to the core implementations or something. But for us was basically just like handling the use cases that we had. And I agree, like having a decentralized mempool, like it's extremely important, and I do like encourage everyone to choose solutions which can guarantee decentralization. Like we are one of them now, just not through the 4327 mempool. And where is also like there's an additional thing like checking the contracts, for example, after 7702, like this is where 4327 and the entry point and all of that like has a very big addition, is checking the contracts that, you know, there is obviously a way to do force inclusion, to do all of these things, that you're not in some type of situation where you have to like, for where the relayer could like rug you and not rug you, but like kill your liveness, and then you would have to go get gas and have to like redelegate and everything, and making sure that wallets will, you know, act accordingly, that you will still have access to your private key. I'm sure like wallets will now appear which will try to hide your private key from you. Probably the users shouldn't allow that. So there's a lot of caveats around all of that. So yeah, just like a long-winded answer, just wanted to give some context on why we're pursuing our own strategy on this one.
Amazing. All right, guys. While we were talking, we were silently doing a test if it will work. I think it works. So now it's like words from our sponsors. Ambire, just kidding. We'll try to do a 7702 transaction on Ethereum. This is Ambire, and this is an UA address. I will try to send some tokens. I will pick some wallet tokens, and we'll send some to, say, Vitalik, but I will start a batch and send some 10 more to Ambire ETH. All right, it's valid. And then let's see. Here, I'm sending 10 wallet tokens to Vitalik, 10 to Ambire.eth, and then I will try to pay the fee with, let's say, DAI on Ethereum. All right, signing and waiting. All right. Wow.
You can open Jiffy Scan. Click on Open Explorer, and it should open Jiffy Scan.
Yep. Let's see. Oops. Just a second.
I think it's confirmed.
I think it's confirmed. Yes. Yep. You see my stream?
Yeah, and that's Etherscan, not Jiffy Scan, but it's a patch, and it interacts with the entry point. So I think it worked.
So congrats. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good. All right. Nice. So we have a live 702 transaction. All right, everyone. I think that this was a a nice end on our end of today's stream. But if anyone else has some final words to say.
Yeah, I can maybe add that I'm so happy that finally these approvals will go away. So yeah, that's one of the, I think, the biggest pain points in the whole Ethereum ecosystem, except for L2s that had account abstraction natively built in. It was, always a pain coming back to Ethereum and then have to do this when you were used to not having to approve. But yeah, for the end user, I think this will be the biggest.
My take is GG to everyone who participated, who proposed the ERC, to the Ethereum Foundation for implementing. I know it's been a very contentious topic for at least a year and more. But yeah, I'm super thrilled. I think this really unlocks a new era for Ethereum and EVM in general. I feel like it's gonna be similar to how when 4844 came about, everyone was like, they're just promising these things, and then really the fees dropped by 10x. And I think this is gonna be also something that surprises people, how all of the things we've been talking about actually become a reality very soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone for all their hard work.
Yeah. And I'm also really excited to see what's going to happen with the paymasters, because now this brings paymasters to everybody, and I feel like that's going to remove a lot of friction for people. We're still paying ETH on the network for everybody listening. Don't worry, ETH value can only go up because of this, because now people can pay with the tokens they don't really use and trade them to pay ETH gas fees with this. So ETH is still getting paid. If anything, it will make the price go up in terms of the amount.
It's not financial advice by the EF.
I'm not saying this is not an official. I'm just saying, in terms of how the network works, it still uses ETH, but now the average person can pay with whatever token they want, and that's something that's been available for anybody using full-on account abstraction. Now we're bringing this to everybody who's using EOAs. So I'm just saying that I'm very excited to see the UX that's going to come about when people don't really have to hold any ETH if they want to use the network.
Yeah, it's also surreal seeing a transaction from an EOA going into the entry point and interacting with the same account. So that's really amazing. And I would just like to say that I'm super impressed by how quickly the industry organized with each other to make this happen. Because already on day one, we have wallet support, we have dApp support for batching. We have multiple layer 2s already live, and some layer 2s being live in a few days, like Optimism and Base are launching it the next day, the day after tomorrow. And it's just amazing. And also good job to the Ethereum Foundation coordinating this and also coordinating hardware wallet support. Ledger merged 7702 support yesterday, so that's really impressive. And I think this is one of the best coordinated EIPs I've ever seen, especially considering how big of a change was it. And the quickest executed, even though it was so contentious. So maybe at the end of the day, it wasn't so contentious after all. It was just maybe a minority. But yeah, overall great execution.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Happy Pectra again. And yeah, go build great stuff.
Happy Pectra.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super great.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.